Hey guys, in this video we're going to be taking a look at a German-made Chinese K98k. Thank you to Brendan Wilson for the idea of this video. It's actually something I've been meaning to make a video on for a while, and I just kind of keep forgetting. So before I can talk about this Mauser, I need to preface this with some Chinese history. Chinese military history is something that's not, taught a whole lot or talked about in the United States. And it's really a shame because China has a very rich history, and there's a lot of, interesting conflicts and wars and stuff like that that's happened in the last 200 years there. In fact, just one rebellion in the mid-1800s in China called the Taiping Rebellion, more people died during that rebellion than did in all of World War I. So that just maybe will put that into context a little bit for you of the magnitude of what was happening over in China. So with all this conflict and turmoil, there's obviously a great need for military weapons. And starting in the 1870s, China started buying tens of thousands of German Gewehr 71s, which is the Mauser 1871 rifle. And pretty much from then on, they loved the Mauser and they bought all of them. Just about every Mauser rifle that you could think of, especially like through the 1920s and 30s, every type of Mauser rifle that was being produced by just about every company was sold to China at some point and saw, usage in the Chinese Civil War. So to set the stage for this rifle, the Chinese were having a civil war. This time it was the nationalists versus the communists. And so you have Mao Zedong and those guys on the communist side, and you have Chiang Kai-shek on the nationalist side. And in this, this war, of course, you need arms, so they're buying up arms to fight each other. And then you have the Japanese invasion of China and Manchuria. So the two sides actually sort of called a truce to focus on the Japanese threat. And after the truce, the nationalists really stepped up their orders from Europe and from pretty much anyone who would sell them anything. They needed weapons, they needed gear, they needed tanks, they needed everything. And Germany was one of those countries that was just happy to sell the nationalists whatever they needed. So Germany sold China tanks, helmets, rifles, pretty much anything and everything. The Germans even sent over officers to teach the Chinese modern tactics and war, which is really interesting because when we think of World War II, we always think about Germany and Japan being allies. But this is Germany actively arming and equipping the enemy of the Japanese. So you can kind of see that the Germans and the Japanese kind of had this love-hate relationship in World War II. And this was really just kind of proof of that. So in violation of the Versailles Treaty, the Germans produced, especially Mauser Oberndorf, produced a rifle called the Standard Model. And that was an export Mauser. They sold it to a number of countries, including to China. And once the Germans adopted the K98k rifle, Oberndorf sort of switched over from their Standard Model pattern to a sort of K98k pattern rifle, and then kept selling those to China. So this gun was made sometime between 1935 and 1939. It was shipped to China. It was used by the nationalists, possibly against the Japanese, but what we do know for sure is that this gun ended up in the People's Republic of China, which is the Chinese Communist Party's hands. And it's just got a pretty neat history, being that it was made in Germany, sent to China, used on two sides in China, possibly fought the Japanese. You don't really know exactly what these old guns went through. So I'm going to do some close-ups of this rifle, and I'm going to kind of show you how this rifle differs from a standard German K98k. So here on the receiver ring, we can see this Mauser logo. So this is oftentimes called a Mauser banner, and so these rifles are often called Mauser banner rifles. So this is something that Mauser really only did on their commercial rifles. When they switched to their military contracts, the military, they wanted codes on it. So for Mauser Oberndorf, the first year you'd see like a S42G, then later on it was just 42, and then eventually BYF. So this Mauser logo, you really only see it on commercial guns. Now on the side rails of a lot of these commercial guns, you would usually see something saying, like Mauser Oberndorf or maybe just Standard Model or whatever. However, this one is just blank. It's a little bit of an oddity. You can also see tons of pitting. These Chinese rifles are generally going to be pitted and rusted up, especially along the wood line here. They are just always like this. It's very, very rare to actually get one that's not in very rough shape. So something to note here on the side, instead of the typical Waffenamps like you would see on a German K98k, what we have here is the Chinese nationalist symbol. What this is a sun with 12 rays coming out of it for the 12 months of the year. On K98ks, you have Waffenamps. You'll either have, Weimar eagles or the Nazi eagles here. But on these Chinese guns, it's the nationalist symbol. Same exact style of rear sight as on a K98k. Here on the left side of the buttstock, we can see a really nice Mauser banner cartouche in the stock. It's pretty amazing that this cartouche was able to survive, especially considering the condition of the rest of this rifle. This big blaring symbol here next to it that was burned in the wood, I have no idea what this is. I've asked a couple of Chinese-speaking people if they had any idea, and they don't really have any idea, so don't know what that means. So here on the right side of the stock, we see an ideograph that's been burned in. These are pretty common on Chinese Mausers, and they're really neat because they'll tell you something specific about your rifle's history. So this one says Henan's People's Militia. So we know for a fact that this gun was in the region or the province of Henan in China, and it served in the army, or at least the militia there. So this gun saw military service after the People's Republic of China, which is the Chinese Communist Party, won the Civil War. So we know that this gun fought on both sides because here in the middle we have the nationalist Chinese symbol, which is kind of interesting that this symbol was left here in the middle of the stamp. Here on this side of the receiver we see another nationalist sun and lots more pitting. Chinese firearms are a really underappreciated part of the military surplus firearms market. And I think some of that has to do with the condition of the guns. So some of the guns tend to be really rough by the time they've made it through so much war and come back to the United States. Also, the Chinese, they made a lot of sort of knockoff variants of different guns. So probably some people just suspect that it's shoddy quality, maybe unsafe if it's a Chinese gun. So I think there's quite a few factors that lead to that, but I think that these are just very fantastic and interesting guns, and there's such a wide range. So if you're a Mauser collector, there is a plethora of variations of Chinese Mausers that you can get. And the guns are guaranteed to have saw action, that they're guaranteed to have been used in a war just by the scale of the conflicts going on over there at the time. So I definitely recommend checking out some Chinese history, maybe learning about the Chinese involvement in World War II. It's just really fascinating stuff. Let me know what you think about this video. Without you guys commenting, I really don't know how you're liking this content or not. So let me know what you guys think of this video. If you have any ideas for future videos, also let me know. Or if you got any questions for me, just feel free to leave them in the comments below. I read all the comments. Yeah, so thanks for watching.